I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Books and Bubbly. This is the playlist that I review books I get all bubbly about while drinking something bubbly. And today I am reviewing When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I will say this is my first Cassidy book, and let's just say this is definitely not going to be my last. I do also want to give a warning that there are going to be spoilers in this review. If you want a spoiler-free version of this review, please check out my What I Read in October video, which I will link in the description below. Thinking about it, this might come out before that video is available. So if you're checking it out before then, no spoiler-free version review for you, or wait a week and then that other video should be available. But just a heads up, I will be talking about the plot and giving away spoilers. Okay, let's go ahead and see what this promised. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, horrifying incidents of butchery follow them. At first, Jess thinks she understands what they're up against. But she's about to learn there's more to these surreal and grisly events than she could ever imagined. And that when the wolf finally comes home, no one will be spared. So I am also going to read Cassidy's content warnings for this. 1, so you know what you're getting into, and 2, because his closing line is funny as hell. So content warning. I'll never understand why some people get so upset about content warnings. If you're a sicko like me, all these do is give you a little preview of what flavors of nasty fun you're in for. And if you're a reader who prefers to avoid certain subjects or prefers to go in with some bolstering, well, forewarned is forearmed, right? This is specifically a story about the slippery nature of fear and how important it is to find healthy ways to live with it. So I'm more than happy to provide a heads up. This book contains graphic descriptions and/or discussions of murder, gore, dismemberment, needle trauma, blood-borne diseases, spiders, insects, ideations about taking one's own life, abuse, grief, alcoholism, parent death, child trauma, child endangerment, and a whole lot more. It borrows a few tropes from fairy tales. Happy endings isn't one of them. Which, to be fair, the original fairy tales don't really have happy endings. And hey, if you are the sort of person who's offended by the existence of content warnings, I'm truly sorry. Maybe next time I'll give you a little heads up that they're coming, so you'll be able to prepare yourself. I'm sorry, but that is funny. I really appreciate the humor that is thrown into the content warnings, while also describing the content warnings for this, because yes, this book does cover some heavy topics, and I think it's fair to forewarn people, so that way they know if they don't want to engage with certain media. But beyond that, by finishing this book, oh my god, did I love this. I devoured this, much like the titular wolf was devouring all the people in it. Though I do want to say that this is not a traditional werewolf story. This honestly made me think of Stranger Things, but make Steve Harrington more of a main character back in season 1. I also felt that this had some supernatural vibes going on, which was great because I freaking love that show. The vibes are vibing in this book. So let's get into the actual story. So we open the book from a little boy's perspective, and Daddy is howling and tearing the house apart. The little boy is scared and he's trying to hide, but Daddy finds him. The boy is able to fight back and hit Daddy and escapes and runs out into the night. We then move over and meet Jess, who is absolutely hilarious. I really, really, really love Jess as a main character. So we come across Jess. She's working her night shift at Poppy's Diner, which is not the career choice that she had set for herself. She's a struggling actor and has bills to pay. But she fortunately has an audition the next day, so her coworker Margie offers to close out if Jess will just go clean the bathroom and then she can go home early. Only problem is that an addict went to the bathroom earlier and left behind a nasty surprise in the form of a needle for Jess to find and have poke her in the finger. Great. Just great. Jess is already upset and like frustrated because she just got the news that her deadbeat dad is actually just dead now, and she's really struggling to understand how she feels about it. Now she has to panic about whatever she might have gotten from this syringe. So she ends up leaving and is planning to go to a clinic, but then turns on autopilot and goes home instead. All while like a stream of F-bombs play out in her head. She also realizes that she left her phone charging at the restaurant. A new stream of fuck, 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 fuck joins the chorus, which, girl, same. I get it. Sometimes that's how I used to drive home from work too. She gets home and contemplates, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, where do I go? What do I tell him? Her roommate, Kelsey, works days, so she's no help because she's busy asleep. And Jess has the great idea that surely some beers will help her think clearly. But as she's sipping on these beers, she hears some weird noises outside her apartment. She goes out there and finds the little boy hiding in the bushes and is trying to get him to come inside, so she offers him like some pizza, and then she's gonna figure out like who she needs to call to like figure out where this kid belongs. While he's snacking on his pizza and she's Googling some stuff, she hears another commotion outside where she just found the boy. She goes out there and sees two of her neighbors talking to a guy who kind of looks like the kid. So she's like, oh, great, this is like a good start. He's also buck-ass naked. The neighbors are threatening to call the cops, and Nude Dude says, please don't. He's just looking for, but it's cut off by one of the neighbors saying, like, she knows what Nude Dude is looking for. Nude Dude eventually sees the little boy in Jess's apartment, but the neighbors end up tackling him, and Jess runs back to the boy. He is terrified. He is shaking. He's so scared. And he tells her Daddy found him. And right after that, she starts to hear some like howling and screaming and ripping noises and just like wet, gruesome sounds as some animal attacks the neighbors. Because this is so loud, Kelsey wakes up and is disoriented and asks what's going on. And then the wolf beast thing shows up outside the window. But he's also dragging something, the body of one of the neighbors that was out there earlier. He doesn't want to come in by himself, so he throws the neighbor's body through the sliding glass door to break the door down so he can come inside. Kelsey is a smart girl, and she is armed, and begins shooting at the wolf thing. It's completely unfazed, and unfortunately her gun doesn't do her very much good because the beast comes in and just rips her apart. Jess and the boy run, but she realizes like, oh fuck, I don't have car keys. So she has to go back inside the apartment, and while she's searching for the car keys, she hears like someone else moving around, so she grabs Kelsey's gun, and a guy comes around the corner and she shoots him, and oh shit, she just shot a cop. He goes down to the ground. She does not have time to really like figure out what's going on. She's panicking, and so she goes back to the little boy and they drive away. She ends up going to Margie's house because that's really the only place that she can think of. Margie is kind of pissed and wants to know if she's harboring a fugitive and going to get in trouble for being an accomplice, but she is also very good at calming the little boy down. She has a son. She puts the little boy in his room. She even gives him like a security blanket that she tells him will make him invisible, and he absolutely loves it. He is okay. So then Jess borrows Margie's car to go back to the diner to get her phone. And unbeknownst to them, Daddy is able to follow the little boy. He can kind of smell him and scent him. So he shows up at Margie's house. Margie's all like, great, just what I need after another long night. A naked man standing out in my yard. He starts to change and ends up killing Margie. But the little boy is terrified. He's using that security blanket that Margie told him would make him invisible. Daddy can't find him. Daddy ends up like hunting throughout the rest of the house. Jess returns and the little boy runs out to her, and she gets him in the car and they start driving again because she knows Margie is dead. And Jess decides it's time to call in the big guns. She calls her mom. Her mom books Jess a hotel room for the night and they try to get some sleep. Mom does not know about Jess's little bout of kidnapping yet. And Jess, when they are at the hotel, she tries to get to know the boy. She asks what his name is. He doesn't know. Daddy never uses it. So she's like, okay, well, is it okay if I call you then like kiddo? He agrees. And so she's like, okay, you can call me Jess. So Jess still needs to go to the doctor to figure out like the needle wound situation. She tells Kiddo that she needs to leave, but she will be back. And she's gonna show, like, he's been really interested in books. And she's like, well, let me blow your mind, and like turns on the TV. He's absolutely captivated. So she clicks through some channels until she finds a movie for him, like a cartoon movie. And she tells him, you're very lucky. It's really great that you ended up with me because I'm famous. I'm an actress. I do TV as well. And the little boy he's trying to understand. He's like, oh, you're a celebrity. And just, yes, exactly. I'm a celebrity. He gets very excited about that. And he's like, oh, okay, like I'm just going to hang out here and watch TV while you go do your thing. So she goes to the clinic, but notices that, people are staring at her. They're whispering at her as she's trying to fill in her paperwork. Finally, some people come up to her and they're like, we love your work. Others come up to her. They want a photo with her. People just keep showing up, wanting just a minute of her time to take a picture with her. She has to get out of there and is eventually chased by the paparazzi all the way back to her hotel room. Like, they are following her down the hall, screaming her name. Just give us a picture. Just turn around. She wonders, like, what the hell is going on? How do all these people know me? And the boy looks at her like, you told me you're a celebrity. Like, obviously they just want a picture. She asks, like, did you do this somehow? And so she freaks out and tells him, like, no, I'm not famous, which makes him very mad that she lied to him. But then all of a sudden, the people start to leave. They're very confused about why they're there and why they even know Jess in the first place. It's not like she has really anything notable to her name. But before they can even come to terms with that, she goes to the bathroom and the little boy freaks out, telling her not to go because the bathroom's already occupied by Christopher Lloyd. Not the Back to the Future version, the Roger Rabbit version that she let him watch while she was gone. Which, that movie was terrifying when I was a kid. I remember watching that and like being freaked out, like when his eyes get all big, like, I know it was a cartoon, but like, my God, was that movie scary. So the kid was scared by it, and the Christopher Lloyd character and some like weasels from that movie are alive in their hotel room, but they're still cartoons. They are two-dimensional. So Jess is freaking out because how is this happening? The little boy's freaking out, which just makes everything worse. So they have to get away, and they're chased down the hallway, and then eventually they make their way up to the roof. Realizing that they're trapped, she doesn't really know what to do, but also starting to piece together, like, the little kid thinks something and makes it happen. So she tells him that it's okay. We're just going to step off the roof, and we can float. It'll be like a balloon. She grabs his hand, and they step off the roof. And lucky for her, she was right. This little boy is like 8 from Stranger Things meets the Scarlet Witch. What he believes in becomes real. He can reshape reality around him. He is the one who is turning his daddy into the scary wolf. He made Jess famous. He was scared of Roger Rabbit and brought the cartoons to life. So again, this is not a traditional werewolf story because his dad isn't changing because of like the moon. He's changing because his son is scared of him. He sees his dad as a monster, so he literally turns him into one. So not the werewolf story I went into this expecting, but I really did love the direction that this was going in. I mean, I just love weirdo kids with supernatural powers. Like, such a great story. So at this point, we kind of change gears a little bit, and we meet Special Agent Michael Santos, who has basically just found out, like, the X-Files are real, and there is a secret department in the FBI that deals with this shit. And, oh, by the by, they also really want his help. So they end up telling him about Kiddo and what he can do. Again, this is very Stranger Things-esque, as Daddy was involved in, like, governmental testing, and, oh, they thought he was sterile, and oops. Kiddo comes along, and whatever test they were doing on to Daddy had an effect on him. Now, they think it is mostly relegated to his fears. He brings his fears to life, and they also explain that, he accidentally killed his mom during childbirth, since that would be a very scary situation from the perspective of the baby that is being born. Now, for a while, they had Kiddo under their surveillance, but then Daddy had a change of heart, and then he and his son just disappeared. So it is very imperative that they find the boy. He is very dangerous. So we switch back over to Jess, and she and the boy are on the run again, and she plans to head to her mom's in Arizona. They start the story out in California. She stops by a Target to get a few things, especially since she was wounded with the fight with Christopher Lloyd and the Weasels, and the boy is absolutely amazed by being in the Target. He has never seen so many just things before in his life, and his excitement starts to bring some of these things to life. So Jess, tries to explain to him, no, you don't need to be scared, these aren't real, especially as they pass the Halloween aisle. She does eventually let him, dance with some mannequins that he brought to life for a minute, but he does start to get very overwhelmed. And eventually they have to leave the store because things are coming to life. Halloween masks, animatronics, skeletons, they are attacking customers, biting them, trying to grab things. So she has to get him out of there. They end up driving to some seedy motel as it's time to hunker down and actually make plans, and Jess needs to wrap her mind around everything that has happened. Now, over in Arizona, Santos shows up at Jess's mom's house. Her name is Cookie, and she is an absolute delight. I freaking loved Cookie. Santos tells her that, Jess is in a lot of trouble. She has kidnapped someone. She shot a cop. She has been on the run. And, he just really wants to help her. If Cookie helps him get Jess, he can make all of her problems go away. Shooting the cop, not a problem. We will take care of that. Cookie is pretty smart and realizes, you want to use me as bait because he already knows that Jess is en route to her house. And, honestly, Santos kind of sucks because even before he's out the door, he's, patting himself on the back for such a job well done. She played right into his hand, he thinks. She thinks it's time to call Jess and tell her that the FBI is zeroing in and, what the fuck, Jess? What have you gotten yourself into? At the motel, Jess is trying to ask the boy if, do you know how to control this? Can you stop yourself from doing this? Can't you just believe that you can't do these things and they would maybe stop? And this really upsets him. It seems like something his father has tried doing, because he does know he can do this. He doesn't know how to not know that he can do this. He does eventually settle down, and Jess gives him something to drink, and it is spiked. She didn't have children's Benadryl, but she thinks, half a dose of another sleeping pill is going to be completely fine, right? If you've been following along, nothing will ever be fine. So back over at Cookie's, she gets another visitor, this time a casting director from Paramount. He tells her, he's been trying to get in touch with Jess about a role because this other actress, is now out of the role, and he heard that, she's taken some time off and probably headed this way. He's, charming her and schmoozing her and gives her a card and, make sure to have Jess call me the nanosecond she gets into town. So Cookie immediately calls Jess and tells her their plan is off. That plan being to trust the FBI and let them help. Mom got a really bad feeling from the director and just knows that something is off with this guy. And it's also starting to make her question her trust in Agent Santos. So Cookie makes arrangements for Jess to go elsewhere. Now, unbeknownst to Jess, this is Cookie planning to send her to her father's residence, his cabin that he owned. And because Jess has always wondered where her dad was, and all along Cookie has known, so she really just hopes that, please don't hate me, Jess, when you find out. Cookie says she just needs to call Uncle Pepsi to set things up, and they have a good old laugh about it. They talk about it. It's hilarious. Unfortunately, what's not hilarious is outside Cookie's apartment, Santos sees Mr. Paramount leaving, and he realizes that's the kid's dad. His real name is Peter Calvert. So Santos goes over to confront him and starts to arrest him, but Calvert keeps saying no, no, no. Santos finally realizes that Calvert isn't talking to him. He's not saying no to him. Calvert wonders why. Why is he doing this now? And then he starts to transform underneath Santos's hands. he becomes the wolf and throws Santos into the wall. Now, I will say this part was really heartbreaking because the wolf enters Cookie's apartment. She's been having people over for bridge night, and the wolf just causes a massacre. He destroys anything and everything in his way. And Jess is on the phone with her mother, and hears her mother tell her, she loves her. She was so happy she got to know her. She's so proud of her daughter. And then Cookie is attacked by the wolf. She screams, and that's when Kiddo wakes up. Because what Jess didn't see when she gave him the drugs was that it causes very vivid dreams, especially nightmares. And back at Cookie's apartment, Calvert immediately changes back and is able to kind of piece together that the boy did this while he's asleep. Even his dreams are dangerous, and his powers will work even when he is not conscious or trying to apply them. Now, Santos did survive his meeting with the wall and wakes up, and it's kind of weird because he's hearing this phrase that's on repeat in his head. The phrase is, "It hasn't happened yet, but once it happens, it will always be happening, and it will never not have happened." He doesn't really understand, but he continues his mission and continues to get back to work, even though this phrase keeps trying to play in his head and he keeps trying to ignore it. He keeps rubbing at the back of his neck, he just feels very off. And there's even moments where someone asks what his name is and he can't quite think of it, and he just feels very weird. So back with Jess, she ends up hitting the road once more with the kid, and he tells her he is very sorry about her mom. She even entertains the idea of asking, could he bring her back? And she decides not to because, again, messing with time and don't know what exactly she would be bringing back. They continue to talk, and she teaches him how to tell stories and, tries talking to him about confronting your fears. She tells him, I'm scared most of the time too, just like him. She wants him to feel less alone, less special, less afraid. And maybe he'll think that his powers are a normal thing that he can grow out of, and if he believes that, then it'll make it reality. They do finally meet up with Mr. Uncle Pepsi on the other side of the country, and she finds out the truth of where she's staying. It's where her dad lived. Uncle Pepsi remembers her from when she was a girl. He even tells her, you're the one who gave me this weird nickname, and is a really great guy. He sets them up for a few weeks at the cabin by buying them supplies. And so then she and Kiddo go for a walk, and they're walking around this lake, and he accidentally conjures up the Loch Ness Monster, but is really friendly and cartoonish, the good kind of cartoonish. This oopsies moment does lead to Santos knowing exactly where they are because someone else was out on a walk and saw the Loch Ness Monster pop out of this lake, so they call 911. So this little oopsies moment leads to Santos knowing exactly where they are because someone else who was walking around saw the Loch Ness Monster pop out of this lake, and they call 911 about the incident. Fortunately, it's not the only incident. They're walking at night, and, they're looking up at the stars, and she says they're just like fireflies. And so he starts to make them move and dance like fireflies do in the night sky. And Jess is freaked out because she's just, what just happened to all those stars and planets in that galaxy that he just made dance? They go back home, he goes to sleep, and she starts rummaging through her dad's stuff, and she comes across some letters that he wrote her but never sent her. She's really angry, but she's also kind of relieved to know that he was thinking of her too for the rest of his life. It's just very complicated. And she kind of has to sit with her feelings and understand what it meant to be a dad, because he's talking about the feeling of needing to protect your child. How do you do that? How do you eventually let go? So the next morning, Jess leaves the boy at the cabin so she can finally visit a doctor and get some blood tests done. And miraculously, let's be honest, read convenient for the plot, Santos is there and asks her to talk. He finally convinces her that it's best if he is just able to take the boy. He has the right facilities that he can take him to. They are able to take care of him and cure him. She's exhausted and spent and finally just caves. She allows Santos to follow her back to the cabin, but telling him, let me do the introductions because he trusts me. But once she starts to see Santos interact with the kiddo, she realizes, like, oh, she's Job from Arrested Development and made a huge mistake. He can't help. Like, at least he's not going to help the kid. He's going to help the government because they are going to use the kid. They're going to turn him into a weapon. Which, like, duh, Jess, like, it's the government. What did you think they had planned to do with him? Like, that was one thing that I didn't love about this. Like, it kind of feels like characters have to make these choices so we can move to the next scene. But then all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a second. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And they have to, like, try and undo it to create conflict. So just that part felt a little forced to me. But, like, I guess we're still moving along. So now we're going to get up to probably, like, the most fucked up scene of the book, because it's very, like, existentially crisis-y, if that's even a word. So Jess tries to tell Kiddo, like, oh, we have to get away from him, or, like, get Santos away from us. She's trying to figure out a way to say it so it'll happen, and she says to make it like Santos was never here. And he takes that extremely literally. So Kiddo turns around and screams at Santos that he's not real and never was, and that phrase about how it hasn't happened yet, but once it happens, it will always be happening. He is being erased from existence. He's being, like, pulled apart across time. He's disappearing before their eyes, but, like, also from their memories. He was gone, but he was also never there. It's just, oh my god, it's just this weird, like, ripple through things of, like, him being ripped apart, and then he's gone, and then, like, we also get a disturbing scene from, like, his mother, who he's suddenly no longer a part of her life, and, like, she starts screaming, but she doesn't know why. She doesn't know what she's screaming for. And she is screaming for the rest of her life because her baby, her son, is all of a sudden, like, ripped from time. Like, it's just, oh my god, it's so much existential dread. Kiddo freaks out. He did not mean to make that happen. That's not what he actually wanted. He is absolutely terrified. And through his fear, he kind of starts to change Jess. She's becoming the wolf now. He's projecting his fear out onto others. She is able to get him to stop, and she turns back into herself, but then he's upset with himself and just completely freaking out and makes himself invisible to her. Unfortunately, they are not alone. Daddy has found them. Kiddo is really scared and eventually makes it so she can see him again, so they are able to run from Daddy, who is basically now the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. He is roaring and stomping towards them. He chases them through the woods, and Jess tells Kiddo, like, it's just Daddy. He's just a man. He is a normal person. So that way the kid will change him back into a man. Once he's back in his normal self, Daddy apologizes and says he's sorry. He's so sorry for it all. He's so sorry for what comes next. And Jess realizes a bit too late, like, what he's actually saying. Daddy shoots the boy. He's wailing and apologizing more, but he could not think of any other way to deal with this. He could not protect his son from what he was. Jess comes up to him as Dad is holding onto his son, crying, and she does the same to him. So in the end, like, Jess ends up, talking to the police and going through everything, even though, like, there's a lot of things that they don't really believe. And eventually she's let go and she's able to go home and go to bed. She has absolutely nothing left to give. But as she's sleeping, she kind of wakes up in a nightmare, and her dad is there. Cookie is there. Kiddo is there. And he reminds her, you're just like me. She realizes what he means. She realizes how those words that were meant to soothe him became literal for him. He believed her, and so it was. She is just like him, with the ability to manipulate reality. And he just tells her, stop being afraid. Now, this is where I think the ending could have two interpretations, because it reads like, in her sense of not being afraid, she erases everything. She's no longer afraid because there's nothing to fear. And that's a terrifying ending. Now, I do think it is the one that Cassidy was going for, but I'm not him, so I could be wrong. For me, the other interpretation is that she believes she's fearless and is a new version of herself. She's ready to take things on. There is nothing to lose. I want a hopeful ending, but I don't think that's what it meant. I really do think it was the ending of she got rid of everything. It's silent. Everything is cleared. It is empty. She just destroyed everything. Like, there is nothing left. Which, woof, what an ending. But honestly, what an amazing book. Like, throughout this, I really loved how Jess was so good with the boy, even though she is absolutely terrified of him. She's running on 0 sleep, has no idea what she is doing. I really just loved watching her figure things out and do her best to protect him. This is very much a on-the-run story, as our characters are often chased from like one location to the other. Going back to my Stranger Things comparison, I think this had a really fun tone. Like, there are scenes of dismemberment and gore, but it's also kind of campy in other scenes. But these tonal shifts worked really well in this. I think it brought a lot of balance and levity to it before it like punches you in the face with like a man being erased from existence. You truly never know what's coming next in this. And again, this book isn't your traditional werewolf story. This went in a direction I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed it. It balanced tones and themes really well and just kept the story moving. Overall, this book explores fear and how we give our fears life. But what if the worst thing we fear is something uncontrollable within our own selves? I really thought this was a great exploration and explored this in an interesting way. The book was very visual, but I will say I think there were like maybe 2 or 3 scenes that I had trouble picturing what Cassidy was describing, like especially the end with like the dad as like a T-Rex chasing them through. I'm like, I'm not getting what you're laying down, man. Like, I get it, but I'm also like not seeing this. But for the most part, I thought the descriptions were really great, and I could experience the horror of what was happening to the characters, especially earlier on in the story. Like, the scene at Cookie's apartment, I could see that clearly. Even the cartoons, I could see that clearly as well, and just thought this was such a fun romp. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love this. I think the only things that are keeping it from a 5-star read is the ending, which it's realistic, but it's also depressing, and it at times felt like it was a little stretched out, and things just kept happening when I'm like, when are we winding down here? Now, I was also probably reading this at like 1 a.m, so maybe I was just tired and want to go to bed, so I'm like, okay, let's just get there, let's get to the end. And again, the ending is depressing, it's pretty bleak, but in a way, I guess it is open to your interpretation in a sense. So maybe, like me, you also want the hopeful version of she has just decided to be fearless and is going out into a whole new world, one she hasn't experienced before, but I'm gonna guess that that's not what it meant. Okay, if you have any recommendations for other books like this or other fantastic werewolf stories, Stranger Things, similar stories, kids with weird powers, I would absolutely love to hear about your recommendations. Please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining me for Books and Bubbly.